Since the fall of 2012, I've been a security guard at a local nursing home. For the first year, I worked the graveyard shift, which everyone knows is a breeding ground for terrifying experiences. Thankfully, I'm not the kind of guy who scares easily, and being over 6 feet tall, I knew I could put up a good fight if necessary. I could handle whatever came my way. Or so I thought. I can never seem to remember the exact date, but it was sometime during November of 2014. I had shown up for work in a bad mood, knowing I would be sharing my shift with Derek Peterson, an obnoxious prick who always went the extra mile to piss me off. Aside from a few night nurses, we were alone. I sat in the main office, watching the monitor screens, while Derek patrolled the halls. At about 1:30 a.m., things started to get weird. First, the monitors began to glitch, switching from static to still images and back again, all within the space of about 10 seconds. Then, they went completely black, reflecting my tired and confused face. "What the fuck?" I muttered. I switched on my walkie-talkie and called for Derek to come back to the office. "Technical difficulties. Over." When Derek walked in, he was visibly annoyed. "What the fuck, man?" he grumbled. "Have you been messing with the monitors?" "Only you would pull shit like that, asshole." Derek began fumbling with the switches and buttons, cursing loudly as he worked. "Come on, motherfucker, come on. Shit, what the fuck is wrong with these things? Fucking technology. Pain in the ass." Finally, I lost my patience and elbowed him out of the way. Derek began tearing into me for this blatant display of disrespect. His words, not mine, but was cut off by a hair-raising static screech. Derek fell silent, and we both turned in unison to stare at the monitors. They were still black, except for the one that showed the building's main entrance. The image was hazy, but not too hazy for Derek and I to make out any detail. We watched in disbelieving shock as the sliding glass doors slowly glided open, as smooth as a boat gliding across a calm, crystal-clear lake. They opened as wide as they could go before abruptly slamming shut. The screen flickered and turned to static, buzzing loudly in my ears. "Okay, this is fucking insane," said Derek, throwing up his hands. "What the fuck?" The monitor went black again before switching back on. One of the night nurses, I couldn't remember her name, now stood in front of the doors, her back rigid. I could tell she was nervous. She seemed to be staring at something outside. The scene sent violent chills down my spine, and I shivered. "Pussy," Derek sneered. "Fuck you," I spat. "I'm going to investigate. You stay here and keep an eye on things." "Sure thing, pussy." I flipped him off and stomped off, clicking on my flashlight as I went. The elevators weren't operating at this hour, so I had to take the stairs. When I reached the front doors, the nurse had disappeared. As I swept my flashlight around, searching for a clue, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. The security camera. It was fucking gone. The shock paralyzed me, and for a while, all I could do was stand and stare at the sight before me with uncomprehending eyes. It wasn't until I heard a faint shuffling sound that I remembered I could move. My heart sank like a stone as I realized something was walking down the hall towards me. By now, I wasn't just unnerved. I was terrified. I spun around and cast my light towards the hunched figure limping down the hall, revealing a ghostly white face with gaping black eye sockets. in a skeletal hole where the nose should have been. I shrieked, dropped my flashlight, and took off running. I wanted to scream, but I bit my tongue, not wanting to frighten the home's elderly residents. Whatever this was, Derek and I could take care of it. No need to create a giant clusterfuck. "Derek?" I called out as I burst into the office. He wasn't there. All that remained was his badge lying on the floor. All the monitor screens had been smashed out, except for one. As I gawked at it, the blurry image slowly came into focus. It was the main stairwell, but it wasn't empty. A figure sat hunched at the bottom, rocking back and forth. It was small and lithe, like a child or a very petite woman. The skin glowed alabaster in the dark. I wished I had a gun. I'd never felt so vulnerable, and I hated it. When the thing turned to face me, I screamed. The top half of the face was normal, pretty even, with big, long-lashed eyes and a perfect nose. But its bottom jaw had been torn away, leaving flaps of shredded skin and a long, pointed tongue that writhed and squirmed like a tentacle. I stumbled back, landing flat on my ass, and tried radioing Derek again. My pleas for help were met with a distorted female voice speaking unintelligible words. The last remaining monitor exploded, showering me with shards of twinkling, razor-sharp glass. The voice began to shriek like a cat with its tail cut in a blender. So loud, it made my teeth chatter. I clamped my hands over my ears and screamed for it to stop. At some point, I passed out and woke up in the hospital, stitched up and bandaged. The doctor told me I had been found unconscious in the office, covered in blood and surrounded by broken glass. I had lost a lot of blood and was lucky to be alive. While I recovered in the hospital, I heard bits and pieces from various people and slowly pieced together what had happened. It was a nurse who found me, alerted by my screams, and she immediately called for help. After I was taken away in an ambulance, the police showed up to investigate the scene. They found Derek in a storage closet, dead, his body broken and twisted beyond recognition. Several security cameras were missing and never turned up. I gave my statement to the police, but they didn't take me seriously, and I can't say I blame them. The police concluded that someone had broken in, killed Derek, stolen the cameras, and broken the monitors. The fact that there were no other witnesses didn't seem to bother them. I eventually recovered and went back to work. However, I no longer worked the graveyard shift. I refused to go anywhere near that place after sunset. Since the incident, security has been doubled, but nothing out of the ordinary has happened again. At least not yet. Even now, the questions still keep me up at night. Who, or what, killed Derek? What was the nurse looking at? What were those horrible apparitions I saw? I may never know. All I can say is, I'm just glad I don't work the graveyard shift anymore.